All right, I see Katie just joined us. We'll call the meeting to order. Dean, we'll have roll call.
We'll call the roll. We'll ask for Board Member Kitchen, if she can hear us.
Here.
Board Member Noonan.
Here.
Board Member Helzer.
Here.
Board Member Caden Butler. He appears to not be here. And Chair Martins.
Here.
So we do have a quorum to open the meeting and to act. And I asked Margie to confirm that the packet for today's meeting has been posted and notice provided of today's meeting.
I can confirm that the packet was posted and the required notice of today's meeting was provided.
That allows us to move ahead with today's agenda.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the May 13th special meeting, 2021. Everybody had a chance?
So move.
Okay, Katie moved the...
I'll second it.
Okay, and seconded. So any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Same. All right. So minutes carried and approved. Next item, our new business, application CC 21-7.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two applications filed today on behalf of Lighthouse Properties 3 Incorporated. And the first one is requesting approval of a certificate of compatibility to allow exterior facade modifications to be made to a former taxi service building, and also the expansion of a satellite parking lot that's located on the north side of Mulberry, east of SouthFifth Street. And the address of the taxi building is 207 East Mulberry, and the corner lot, which is vacant, is addressed as 256 South 4th Street. So I believe attached to the application was a nice summary provided by the applicant, Mr. Booth, that kind of indicated that this was a phased project and that the first aspect of it would be the renovation of the former taxi building. And then the second part of that would be the future paving of the lot at the corner. That will not happen immediately, but would happen at some point in the future. I think if you've gone by the area, you would note that the streetscape and the right-of-way along there, it's inconsistent because Lighthouse Properties didn't do any enhancements in front of the properties that they didn't own, which was this property and the property on the corner here. So there is improvements in front of the parking area that they did, and we're actually over here, Dustin. Right. So we've got this right-of-way out here and the right-of-way in front of here. That had not been enhanced, and so with the ability of Lighthouse Properties to secure ownership of those properties, there should be a continuous streetscape. And we provided a long background section in this report, partially for your benefit, partially for staff's benefit, to recreate all the different steps and things that happened. But this board was involved in reviewing the demolition of a number of structures over there at the corner of 5th and Mulberry. And then step 2 was a review and approval of plans for both the hotel itself and for the satellite parking lots to the east. And then most recently, we had a case come before this board for a sign that was put at the corner that was a sign for Homewood Suites that identified that parking lot. So the project proposal that's before you with this application is that Lighthouse Properties has finalized the acquisition of those two properties, one in mid-block, one on the corner, and they are proposing to renovate the exterior of the radio cab dispatch office and convert that building to storage. And then they are proposing to incorporate the vacant lot at the northwest corner of SouthFifth and East Mulberry into their parking lot serving the hotel. And so in your packet, you have elevation drawings depicting the proposed exterior modifications to the building, as well as plans depicting the parking lot expansion. And again, these properties are within the Business Improvement District number 1, so the facade renovations and the parking lot construction are required to be reviewed by this board before the work can take place. So we've highlighted some of the applicable design guidelines that would apply to a building renovation. One of the things that's noted is that character-defining features of a building should be preserved whenever possible. If you want to go back to the current condition, Dustin, there's not a lot of character-defining features at this building. It was built as a garage for the house that was at 257 South 5th, and it was later split off from that and purchased separately by Mr. French, and it's a pretty nondescript concrete block building. And so the Lighthouse Properties architect is proposing to re-roof the structure and to patch and repaint the exterior and replace the upper siding with new smart side, smooth finish siding, and then existing doors and window openings would be retained, but actual new doors and windows would be installed, and then some exterior lighting would be added. So you can see next to the overhead garage door, they've got some ornamental external lighting. And so the plan is to use this as accessory storage for the hotel and for yayas. The 50 by 80 lot in the corner would be the third phase of a phased paving, parking lot paving project, and that layout would provide 18 spaces in this area, and that would increase the total number of spaces in the east parking lot to 97. And so you can see from the plan that the plan is to show a continuation of the same Mulberry streetscape improvements that are on the remainder of the block. And so we're talking about ornamental brickwork, ornamental street lights, street trees, and landscape planting beds. And so with the acquisition of this property and the completion of this project, there should be a single theme, a single attractive design for that entire block from 5th over to 4th. So as far as our staff comments and analysis, we've made some suggested findings. We've looked at this and we believe the parking lot design is compatible with existing parking lot layout and with the streetscape that's already in existence on Mulberry. It will have landscape buffers along Mulberry Street. The parking lot conforms with city design standards, and the proposed exterior alterations to the building will make it more compatible with buildings in the surrounding neighborhood, particularly the hotel. And if you recall, there's work being done on the exterior of the former Salina Journal building, which is also in the vicinity here. So your options this afternoon would be to approve the certificate of compatibility application upon finding that the surface parking lot and the exterior building modifications will conform to the design guidelines for downtown Salina. You could approve the application subject to any conditions imposed by the board. You could postpone consideration if you feel like you need additional information about this proposal, or you could deny the application as presented. Our recommendation would be to approve the request subject to 3 conditions, and one of those is that a zoning certificate application for the parking lot expansion and final planting plan for the parking lot landscape buffer strip be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by staff before there's any construction in that southeast corner. That if there's any significant changes to the project as approved, that staff will be notified to determine whether any additional review by this board is needed. And then thirdly, if you want to go back to one of those site plans, Dustin. Way back when probably Mr. Boos and I can barely remember, there was a petition filed to vacate a portion of this alley going through here. And the reason that vacation petition did not move forward is that Mr. French owned this building here, and if that alley was vacated, instead of being under control of Lighthouse Properties, 5 feet of it would go to Mr. French and 5 feet over here, so that really wasn't any purpose in doing that. So what we've indicated is that it is, when you have traffic farther up on an alley, whether it's trash trucks or other vehicles, if you get rid of just one segment of that alley, you've got to provide access over, public access over to a street. So what condition 3 means is that if there is a point in the future where they want to move forward with vacating this alley, then they're going to have to provide a public access over to a public street so that anybody coming down is not trapped and has a legal right to go across this property to get to a street. So with that, we'd be open to any questions that the board might have, or if you want to see graphics again that we went through too fast, let us know.
I will say that I am employed by Blue Beacon International, which is an interested party in this, so I will excuse myself from any discussion or the meeting going forward.
Okay, thank you. We still have a quorum left that we can act. Your recusal does not prevent us from having enough to vote on this, so we appreciate that disclosure. So are there any graphics or anything that any board member would want to see?
No.
I don't believe so. Anybody? No? Any questions, comments?
No.
We might want to hear from Mr. Boos and see if there's anything he wants to add, or any comments he wants to make about the future status of that alley.
With respect to first, Don Boos, 500 Graves Boulevard, Salina, Kansas. I'm Director of Real Estate for Blue Beacon and Lighthouse Properties. We don't see the need right now to vacate that alley. So we feel comfortable that it can continue as is. It's consistent with the plan that we filed. With respect to the building, well, first off, it had taken us a number of years to reach an agreement with the previous property owner to acquire these. We were hopeful that we would have been able to do this much sooner, but sometimes those things just take time. And as we all know, last year was not a normal business year for conducting business of any nature. So, but as we finished the hotel, some of the areas that we had initially planned for storage inside the building wound up needing to be used for mechanical purposes or other purposes. And actually, with respect to Yaya's Euro Bistro, our restaurant tenant, they've just been so busy and they've had such a great demand. They just need more space to store materials. So when we were successful in getting this property under contract, we decided that maybe that would be a better use for us to make use of it for the storage. And then we set out to work with DMA Architects to come up with a plan that would make the building look more in keeping with the area and complement the hotel. So we feel like they've done a very good job.
Okay.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't.
I did have a question, but I don't now that I look at this picture side by side.
All right,
I
thank
thought
you.
you were restructuring the shape of the roof, but you're not. Nope.
And we're trying to make it somewhat disappear,
Yep.
the roof. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion or questions, I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go with option number 2, following the 3 conditions provided by staff.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. Motion carried. Thank you.
That certificate of compatibility has been approved, and we have a second request. And the reason we broke these out was that because they're non-contiguous properties, they're in separate locations, and so conceivably the board could reach one decision on one and another decision on the other. So these are coming to you as two separate applications, and this relates to property that was formerly occupied by two residential structures and also by a Taco John's restaurant. And so we have a situation where the house, one of the houses that was on the corner, was relocated to a new site and over by Ashby House. And then we have the removal of the Taco John's building and new construction at 418 East Iron. And so the condition that was placed on the approval of the demolition request for Taco John's was that any new development on the site would require the review and approval of the Design Review Board at a subsequent meeting. So this is coming back to you to review plans for taking this area and converting the temporary parking lot and the vacant lot into a permanent parking lot. And so this property was rezoned by the City Commission in December of 2020. It was rezoned to C4, and the C4 district, which majority of our downtown is zoned, allows commercial parking lots as a permitted use. So the use is permitted. But the situation we have is the eastern portion is currently vacant. The western portion is being used as temporary overflow parking for the hotel and Yaya's. I guess Mr. Booth can tell us whether it's more widely used by Yaya's or by hotel guests. That property is also bisected by a 10-foot north-south alley. And the eastern portion, if you've been by, is lower in elevation than the western portion or the area west of the alley. And so this request is an application for approval of a parking lot layout plan for the construction of a permanent surface parking lot to add additional parking for the hotel. And there's also an elevation drawing depicting a proposed monument sign that would go along Santa Fe for this parking lot. And so for parking lots, the only design guidance that we have in the Downtown Design Review Board is that they should be designed to be attractive and compatible addition to the downtown. They should provide well-lit and convenient pedestrian access to all facilities. And so a parking lot facility abuts a public sidewalk, provide a buffer. And so the layout indicates plantings and buffers along Mulberry Street. Those buffers are out in the right-of-way and not in the lot itself. And so we also have design guidance on signs. So a surface parking lot is a permitted use in C4. The general guidance on parking lots we've provided on page 6 of your report, and there we have specifications for parking space size, aisle width, ADA parking spaces, driveway widths, buffers, screening, and the need for signage in some occasions to identify an entrance-only or exit-only property. So since this is Zone C4, ground signs are allowed in C4 if they're located on vacant lots or lots with a building setback of at least 10 feet. And so this property has all kinds of frontage on Santa Fe, Mulberry, and 5th Street, so there's no issues about the proposed size or location of the sign. And so this plan is to provide 55 additional 90-degree parking stalls plus 5 parallel spaces along the southern edge of the former Taco John's property. And the It's currently bisected by a 10-foot public alley that's shown in the dashed lines there. A landscape island has been set aside for a proposed new monument sign over along Santa Fe, and a 6-foot screening fence would be required along the south property line where the parking lot abuts a existing residential dwelling. So there is a proposal to add a monument sign on a masonry base to allow the parking lot to be more readily identified by hotel guests and restaurant patrons. The sign appears to be proportional and in scale with the site, so it's not going to dominate the appearance of the streetscape on Santa Fe. It's at a pedestrian-friendly scale. And we don't have a minimum setback. The design is a little bit similar to the sign over at 5th and Mulberry, but it's a dark oxidized bronze and green letters. All three businesses are identified, and there appears that down here we have spotlights similar to what is at the sign at 5th and Mulberry. And so as to possible findings, the parking lot design is compatible with existing streetscape on Mulberry. It will have landscape buffers along Santa Fe and Mulberry, although the Mulberry ones are in the right-of-way. The proposed parking lot conforms with city design standards. The sign will be coordinated with the overall facade composition of the hotel. We think that the colors and materials are compatible, and it will make the parking lot more recognizable, and it's something that conforms with our sign regulations, so it's not something we could not issue a permit for. And so, again, your options would be to approve the certificate of compatibility upon finding that the proposed parking lot and ground sign would conform with the downtown design guidelines. You could approve the application subject to conditions. You could postpone consideration in order to obtain additional information. You could deny the application if you don't think it conforms with the design guidelines. Our recommendation would be to approve the plan with conditions that are similar to the previous case, a zoning certificate and final planting plan for the parking lot before it's constructed. A separate sign permit would have to be issued for the ground sign. If there's any significant changes, that those would come to staff so we could determine whether we need to bring it back to you. And also, we'd ask Mr. Boos about the plans for continuation of this alley. Dustin, if you could go back to one of the parking lot plans or landscape plans, I do have a question for Mr. Boos. And so the parking lot over here and these locations here, there is a buffer opposite the sidewalk so that you have the sidewalk section, and then there's a landscape planting bed before you get to the lot. On this particular lot here, there's no planting bed or buffer between the sidewalk and like there is over here. So is that just a function of the need for the space or to maximize the number of spaces, or that the only thing that we see slightly inconsistent about this layout and design is that over here we have the buffer behind the sidewalk, we have the buffer behind the sidewalk here, but here we have no buffer behind the sidewalk, and so we'd like Mr. Boos to address that design consideration and the future plans for this alley.
Don Boos, 500 Graves Boulevard, Salina, Kansas. That is correct. It is a matter of space. It's a finite amount of space. We need to be able to move vehicles around. There are a lot of extended pickup beds in Salina, and so we need to make sure there's sufficient space behind the spaces for vehicles to maneuver back out, et cetera. one thing about the two lots, they were our construction trailer location during construction and then a staging area. And we officially opened last year, June 30th, but I would classify it as a soft opening because there was quite a bit of work yet to be completed, namely our outdoor courtyard area. And so we needed to maintain this as a construction area for quite some time. And then when we did provide the temporary paving on the former Taco John's lot, we weren't certain if it was going to remain parking or whether we might want to hold it for another retail use of some point in the future. Now we're coming up on the 12-month anniversary of opening, and we're finding that business is actually very good downtown, and we're very pleased, and we absolutely need the parking. So that is why we are moving forward with parking on both lots. With the alley, we were not wanting to vacate the alley, but yet we did want to maintain the curb cuts at the north end and the south. The north end, because it's very easy for the drop-off area. The drop-off area is designed for cars coming in heading west. So once they go in and check in the hotel, it would be very easy for them to essentially make a U-turn, come back, and then pull in that center cut. Right, yes, and then park, and as opposed to closing that off. And it was our understanding that if we provided a easement across the south drive lane for the northbound traffic coming out of the alley, that we could divert them over to the 5th Street exit, which doesn't show on that drawing for some reason. But it would be consistent with where at the backside of those south parking spaces.
Yeah, there was, in our review of this, you may have to go to the civil site plan, Dustin.
Yeah.
We had a civil site plan and landscape plan, and so there was some things that didn't quite match up between the landscape plan drawing and the parking lot design drawing. And the one thing on the landscape plan that was missing is this driveway opening.
Correct.
There. So your thought is that this would be a one-way in,
Correct.
and so then we would try to divert traffic going this way over to this location.
Correct.
And okay, yeah, I think we can work with you on that, on the final zoning certificate and planting plan for that. That wouldn't involve really any action by this board, but I think to get the final traffic flow to work and to get that posted as an entrance only and get signage that would divert anybody coming up from the south to go over to the street to the east and not try to go straight to the north, as it's only a 10-foot alley, so it can accommodate 2-foot or two-way traffic. So
Correct. And that allows us to have 4 more parking spaces, 2 right there in the middle, which works out well for our handicap placement, our ADA spaces. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
So have you determined whether the lot is used, the temporary lot's used more by Yaya's patrons or
Well, actually,
hotel?
time of day, lunchtime, it's primarily Yaya's. The hotel customer tends to be out during the day, and then certainly at night, it's maybe a little bit more hotel than Yaya's, but they do have a lot of nighttime parking need there, so it's about 50-50. Then, of course, the overnight parking would all be hotel.
So I think that addresses a question staff had. The main difference is just the orientation of the lot. If you look at all the other designs, the parking stalls, the head of the vehicle is heading towards the street, but in this particular lot, the stalls are away from the street, so your driving and maneuvering area is what's next to the sidewalk.
Right, which is driven by that curb cut on the north there.
So that's the driving design consideration there.
Any comments from Ms. Ruse?
All
you.
right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I have none.
No? All right then. Well, I think I'll accept a motion then from,
I'll make a motion that we recommend with those 4 conditions.
option 2 with 4 conditions listed.
Correct.
I'll
Okay,
second that.
and seconded, so no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Same sign. All right. Approved, full, passed. So, very good, thank you.
We'll get you a letter summarizing today's action, Don.
All right, I guess thank you. I guess we're ready for administrative items, if there are any.
We don't have anything administrative to bring to you today. We do not have any preliminary discussion items unless you have. We've been brought to our attention about the Fuego restaurant, and we're working through some things with them. We're also working with them. We've got both a cereal malt beverage license and a drinking establishment license for the same establishment, and they can't be both, so we're working through that with them. So they're just having some growing pains to get established, but that's the main thing that we have on our radar downtown. As far as future business, we would like you to put on your calendars the need for hold our second meeting in June. We just got all the final information we needed for the Paramount Bar's request to add a sidewalk cafe or sidewalk dining area in front of the Paramount on North Santa Fe. And so that request and their plans need to come before this board, and they would like to move forward with that on the 24th, which is our second scheduled meeting for June. So if you can mark that down and be available, we will have that to come before you on the 24th. So with that, we'd see if any board members have any other business or anything they want to bring to staff's attention.
I do not. I don't believe we do. So.
Nope.
Okay. It does seem like activity's picking up downtown
Yes.
with the weather, and
It is ridiculously busy down there.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's quite a change from a few years ago when there was nothing happening downtown.
Yeah, so between, I think with the effects of the pandemic and all, there was a real lag between the completion of the streetscape and resumption of activity, but it does appear to be a lot more foot traffic, dining activity downtown, so.
I see a lot of usage of all the plazas. When I go walking downtown in the afternoon, all of the plazas, people are standing around and, just conversating, or they've got food. Gosh, a friend of mine brings food from the library, and she walks all the way down to Spillman Plaza and eats her lunch there just because it's just nice and it's open. And I think that that's what I've seen the most of, other than just an abundance of cars everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic.
There's a lot of foot traffic, which is really nice.
Okay, so we'll, I guess, the more cases we bring to you, the more signs of activity downtown. This was, I don't know if this is the final thing that will happen over in that area, but these were two kind of loose ends that weren't addressed at the time of the original development of the hotel and restaurants because of their difficulty acquiring that property. And then we had meetings with them, and they were kind of back and forth of whether to preserve that as a building site or to make it a parking lot. And with all the activity, they've decided that the parking lot's needed. So until we see you on the 24th, I think that's all we have for you this evening.
Okay, well, thank you. Guess we'll have a motion to adjourn.
A motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.